April 1877, London. The warm air smelled of honey. The air outside had been sharp with the usual London stinks of horse dung and coal smoke and rain, making the Duke's townhouse a welcoming refuge. Granted, by the end of the night the pleasure would be reversed, with exhausted, footsore dancers stumbling away from the smell of sweat and the stifling miasma of women's perfumes and men's hair oil. But for now, drifting from portico to cloakroom to the ballroom itself, all was promise and sparkle, and the sweet aroma of beeswax candles. Clarissa, whose escort was bent in some confusion over her dance card, caught the apricot colour of silk in a slice of mirror and took a half-step forward to admire the dress. It was new and expensive, very à la mode, the result of many hours of poring over sketches with the dressmaker. The fashion for a long, well-corseted torso suited her, and the lightly bustled train at the back emphasized a woman's front in a way that would have been judged indecent just a few years ago. The nakedness of her shoulders, front and back, was both innocent and tantalizing, and the curve of her hips would, she had learned, tempt a dance partner's hands into a drift downward as the evening progressed and the golden candles began to gutter and wink out one by one. She reminded herself to be wary of men who had shed their gloves, and not only because of the stains their palms left on silk. Her thoughts were interrupted by a figure in black coming towards her in the looking-glass. She turned, pleased that here was one acquaintance who might turn into a friend, an actual friend, rather than a useful name or camouflage. It helped that she was married and therefore out of the competition. "Dear thing, I was wondering if you'd come. Though how you managed to look so festive and delicious in black, I cannot know." The two exchanged near kisses, and the newcomer shook her head in appreciation of Clarissa's apricot silk. "Speaking of delicious, oh, I do look forward to getting out of mourning and being permitted to dance again. When you do, the rest of us will have to work twice as hard to be noticed. That is not something you need to worry about, my dear Miss Hudson. So what mischief have you got up to since I saw you last?" "Mischief? Me?" The two laughed, and then Clara's gentleman claimed his dance, and they were away. Later that evening, Clara gazed over her fan at the Earl and his companion. Mr. ZZ was really quite good-looking. She was not in the least surprised when he felt her scrutiny and turned those intense pale eyes on her, but she was surprised at her own reaction. A shiver ran down her spine. Other girls would interpret this as a shiver of delight. Other girls would raise their fans and turn to a nearby friend and giggle, taking their physical reaction as the first sign of love. Clarissa Hudson knew better. Oh, she was well practiced at teasing behind a fan, at pretending innocence, at making use of the crowd of nearby girls to tantalize a male. But she also knew that the intensity of that return gaze was a danger sign. Turn away. Easier quarry lay elsewhere. She sat, pinned by those pale and speculative eyes. The stuffy air closed in around her, cloying and heavy, until she forced her hand to reach out for the other woman's arm to tell her not to bother asking for that introduction. Too late. After that night, Clara Hudson was never quite as fond of the odor of honey.